Hello, I'm Kristin Judge, the CEO of the Cybercrime Support Network. We are a nonprofit public-private partnership on a mission to serve individuals and small businesses impacted by cybercrime. Today, we are launching our partnership to fight cybercrime for the military and veteran community. And I am honored to have three guests with me today to talk about this partnership and the importance of serving those who serve our nation. So if I could ask you to introduce yourself, Craig, if you could start us off, that would be great.
Craig Newmark, Philanthropies, formerly something called Craigslist.
A few of us have heard of that, I'm sure. Thank you. And Bob?
And I'm Bob Woodruff. I'm a reporter for ABC, covered wars for years. I was sadly hit badly by an IED explosion back in 2006. And then after that, we went off and realized that so many of the veterans need so much more that we started a foundation, the Bob Woodruff Foundation, to try to find remarkably great organizations that are doing their best to help the veterans.
Between the two of you, you've served millions and millions of people. Thank you. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then Ursula.
I am Ursula Palmer, Executive Director of Military and Veteran Programs here at Cybercrime Support Network.
Great. So excited to have you on the team and leading this amazing program that we thought would start out a little bit small, but boy, it's not starting out small. Obviously, there's a need here. So after noticing the statistics around cybercrime impacting the military and veteran community, the team at CSN approached Craig and said, would you have any interest in providing us seed funding so that we can get a program off the ground and serve these folks who may not know that they are a target of cyber criminals? Then we met with our advisory board in December, and Comcast right away said, yes, we want to participate too. So thanks to Craig and Comcast, we were able to get this program started. And then Craig has a new list that I'm fortunate to be a part of with all of the organizations he's given money to help them meet their missions. And there we met the Bob Woodruff Foundation team and then called on them to join us in this program. So we now have a co-branded national program that is launching today with one voice to serve the veteran and military community. We know they're disproportionately targeted by cyber criminals. So we hired and partnered with the Crosby marketing team that works with multiple VSOs and federal programs. And we've created a military toolkit that any of these nonprofits that work with the military community can take down off of our website. We've got fightcybercrime.org/military. And then we're going to teach and help people and support them so they can recognize, report, and recover from cybercrime. So that's really what we're announcing today. And we're so excited to be launching this in cooperation with both of you gentlemen here. So if you wouldn't mind, Craig, if you could talk to us a little bit about why you supported this program, that would be fantastic.
In general, our country has forgotten how much we owe vets. We've forgotten how much we owe their families. And we need to support them where that support is needed. Because as it turns out, vets and their families, active service members and their families, are targeted ruthlessly by scammers of all sorts. The worst of it sometimes is directed against families living on or around bases. And this really pisses me off. So what I can do to help out is what I can do to help out in this area. Also making sure we can get vets and their families fed as well.
Yes.
But cybercrime really does rile me up.
Yeah, and you know what we find too is cybercrime doesn't just impact people's emotional health, it's their financial well-being. They may not be able to buy food or pay the rent if they've just given away all their money to a scammer. So it ties right into what you care about, Craig. And then Bob, why do you think this is a good program for the Bob Woodruff Foundation to be involved in?
You know, we've gone, it's been about 15 years since we started our foundation. In the beginning, you know, the problems that we recognized and saw was that a lot of these veterans, when they come back from the wars, and we have been helping those that have been wounded in some way, whether visibly or invisibly. And all those years ago, we realized, you know, they had sorts of physical problems they had to be dealt with, you know, but the medical care was just remarkable. The problem that we saw was when people go back to their homelands, to their village, to their town, and they have a very different world, and they were not getting the kind of care that they needed. Certainly not the same kind of care that I was able to get from my family, from ABC, which kept me employed. And so we concentrated on the physical issues in the beginning, and then we moved on to, you know, in fact, right now we're really concentrating more about employment services and mental health, and then as Craig said, also food security. Because interesting, what we found out is a lot of the veterans, especially now during COVID, don't seem to be, the numbers show they're not quite as willing to ask for help from people from the outside. And so they've got some kinds of vulnerability that's a little bit different than the others than in the civilian world. The numbers, and I think you've got them all there with you as well, Kristin, that I think there was 31% of all post 9/11 veterans, 31% don't have any kind of like a fund, an emergency savings fund to deal with if they do get ripped off through cybercrime or some other way, that they just don't have the same kind of help that others have. And so we just want to make sure that you guys accomplish what you can, because I think veterans in some ways more than others need some help from you.
Absolutely. And I have seen some of the research has said that some veterans have about 1 month's worth of extra funds to keep them. And the average crime, they lose about $2,600. So then that savings or that ability to make it the next month can be gone. And not only would they need to get help fixing, whatever problems are with their bank account or wherever the money was stolen from, but then how do they get rent? And some, the food. And so all those other things come along with cybercrime. It's not just about, let's fix our computer. There's so many other things. And then with the romance scams, there's many times folks who've been impacted by romance scams, whether civilian or military, they many times have suicidal thoughts. And so there's a lot of issues here that we need to start unpacking, but people sometimes don't want to report because they're embarrassed. So talking about it, I think, and opening up these dialogues with the strong military and veteran community is going to help more people come out and get help, we're hoping. And then Ursula, I'd love to have you introduce yourself. Ursula came to us through the Hiring Our Heroes program. We're very excited to work with them to hire military spouses. And she is a perfect fit for this program. Tell us a little bit about you and your story and why you're here supporting this program, Ursula.
Thank you, Kristin. Well, first of all, I have to say that as Gold Star spouse and military wife, it's a privilege to have the opportunity to lead this program. A program that is going to serve the entire military and veteran community, active duty, reserve components, veterans, wounded warriors, caregivers, spouses, families, survivors. Our military community is being disproportionately targeted by cybercrime, but we are resilient. We just need the knowledge, the skills, and the resources to defend against this threat. I myself have been the victim of cybercrime. When my late husband was injured in Afghanistan, I created a website. And because I didn't have time to text or call everyone to let them know how he was doing, so I would just publish updates on his condition. When he passed away, that website became a memorial website. And I had a contact us form there. Through that form, 4 different women, just in the year after he passed away, contacted me and asked me if this person on this website was truly a soldier, because they had been in contact with someone using his picture and they had already sent thousands of dollars. And this is just 1 in a million cases. So what I have to say is thank you, Craig, for providing the seed to help us grow this idea into reality. Thank you, Bob, because your foundation is one of the most trusted sources of help and information among the veteran community. And especially thank you to the 14 partners who are launching along with us this partnership. Since this morning's announcement, 5 more organizations have signed up as well. So thank you for your trust. We hope many more will join us, because it's only with your help that our military and veteran community will be able to access the information and resources they need to defend against cybercrime.
Thank you. And we expect that list of partners to be in the hundreds. And thanks to Bob's foundation, we're going to be connecting with veteran service organizations and military service organizations that you work with in your whole outreach. So we hope that that's going to really grow. Ursula, thank you for sharing your story and for continuing to dedicate your life to service and to doing it with us here at CSN. We are so honored to work with you and all of those partners you saw on the screen there a minute ago, she has relationships with these people and was able to call them because of her dedication and service she's shown since she lost her first husband. So thank you for doing that. Let's talk a little bit more about, reaching out to VSOs and MSOs. Bob, talk about the kind of, network that you have at the Bob Woodruff Foundation and the kind of reach you have. And the, like Ursula said, the fact that you're all trusted there as a great resource.
Well, we've had a very deep relationship with so many veterans and their families. We've had about 11 million veterans that we've
So Bob froze for a minute. I'm going to throw it over to you, Craig, while he re-signs in. And Craig, you've been working with the Bob Woodruff Foundation for quite a while now. And could you share with us a little bit about the Got Your Six and the food campaign that you've been working on with the Bob Woodruff Foundation?
Yeah, the deal is that there's a lot of well-intentioned philanthropy trying to help vets and their families, and not a lot of it is really useful. What the Bob Woodruff people did is they found a whole bunch of organizations supporting vets and their families. They formed that into a network, Got Your Six, meaning pretty much the same as Got Your Back. Yeah. And all those organizations across the country actually do useful things and get the job done for vets and their families. Given the pandemic, and the way it's increased food insecurity across the country, a lot of these veterans organizations are helping getting food to vets and their families. That's a really big deal in the here and now. And so I'm trying to support that for vets and families, as well as making a large commitment to the general US population. But the Bob Woodruff people are really good at creating that network. Mm-hmm. And, in some ways, it's a model network for all kinds of philanthropy. That's something we've been talking about.
Yeah, and so you're able to give to the Bob Woodruff Foundation, and then they have all of these fantastic partners that they fund, and so you're able to expand that giving. Is that the right way to look at it?
That's right. The Bob Woodruff Foundation consists themselves of a whole bunch of people who know veterans and their families and that space. That's how they managed to successfully construct Got Your Six, this network of organizations who are good at their job. And because the Bob Woodruff people can do that, that means I don't have to.
Yeah. So they're doing the vetting and the trusting. So Bob, you were talking about your partnership network. If you could just keep going on that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I had to change to my other computer here.
It happens to the best of us. That's okay.
Thank God we're out here delivering this on the internet, so to everybody watching.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Anyway, I was just saying we have this very long relationship with people in the veterans world. We get about 11 million veterans and family members who we've impacted in some way. We've invested more than $74 million on the kind of organizations that have an impact on something. So we have the ability to communicate with those that are out there that are legitimate. Kristin, as you said, there's a pretty good reputation we have now because there are, in the world that you live in, there's a lot of cyber crimes and criminals out there that do have scams that they do. And we just have the ability, I think, to find the ones that are legit. We're raising the money, really. Craig has been the most amazingly generous man. And then we have a team that's been looking at this stuff for so long, like you have, that we know the ones that work pretty well. Because I guess I never really thought about this. Listening to what you're saying today is that, veterans are so deeply loved and respected in this country, especially now that there's no draft. People are volunteering to protect our country. They have so much more respect than they ever did in history for our country, really. Well, at least not since World War II. And so people want to do something. We just need to find a way to do it because they are vulnerable. People raise money in cybercrime. People pretend that they're veterans or make up some name of a veterans organization to try to raise money from you. So a lot of this ripoff is happening because people want to do something for veterans, but people reach out to them, especially with a lot of older veterans, a lot of it from Vietnam era, not so much for Iraq and Afghanistan. So I think we have the ability to find the ones that are good, and we can we'll do everything we possibly can to spread the word to the veterans and those who want to help veterans about cybercrime.
That's right.
Yeah. Bob gave me too much credit. The deal is, if an American is willing to enter the armed services and then go into action, be deployed, and possibly take a bullet protecting me, the least I can do is to help out a little bit. And I'd like to find ways to get that message across to each and every American.
Yeah, and it's coming through loud and clear. And I think you hit a good point there, Bob, that there are a lot of charity scams that are impacting military and veteran community, because the people that want to give most to that community are the veterans and military families. So these people are preying on them to say, look, you should really give to this, charity that's helping former Marines because you were in the Marines. And they get a list of all these people that were in the Marines and send them these emails and these things on Facebook. And, it's hard for the companies to keep up on it quickly enough to pull those down. But we do know that many organizations, like we work with Microsoft, they're trying to take down the actual bad guys, the ones, the call centers in other countries. There are people working on it, but we need people to report so that we can actually find out what's happening. Of the people who reported in 2020 to the FBI, it was about 700,000 people. They lost $4 billion. Just 700,000 people lost $4 billion. So if we actually count 1 out of 4 Americans are losing money to cybercrime every year, we think it's a $400 billion a year loss to our economy every year. And, people do not have a lot of extra cash, especially right now after COVID. There's millions out of work. So we really have to be making this, a priority for all of us. And thank you for helping us give some voices to it, because a lot of folks do want to stay in the shadows because they're embarrassed about being a victim of cybercrime. So it's really important. Did you want to talk a little bit, Bob, about the Got Your Six program from where you sit?
Yeah, we got, we have the ability to go together with various organizations, and that's the name that we use because it's so many veterans want to do something to support for the others. We just have one event with VOWS actually next week. It's called Fighting the War on Dirty Money, because this is another one. We got a whole event, a discussion again online. With those in the Wall Street world who are seeing the same kind of cybercrime that's targeting veterans in terms of investments, asking for money raising, financial crimes, compliance. We're going to have a panel of experts who are going to talk about this. So I think that if you want to learn something from that world, of the Wall Street world in terms of cybercrime, we got a good event next week.
That's great. That's on the 22nd, correct?
Correct. Yep. 22nd.
Okay, fantastic. Well, and I think you bring up a really good point, because we need to think about workforce development. And I've been involved on a national level. We have a lot of cyber jobs available, and our military that is coming off of active duty, they have a lot of skills that are transferable. So we are working hard with NPower and all these other organizations to make sure that we are helping find a path from the military service into cyber service, because it's still a national security issue, right, Craig?
Yeah. The deal is that cybersecurity is a big problem everywhere in the world, actually. But in the US, we need purportedly a few 100,000 people trained in cybersecurity skills. There's one group called Vets in Tech. I'm involved, which has already trained and placed about 400 vets. And this year, we're hoping to train and place another 500. The deal is that if a vet already has the discipline for the job, and if they have a knack for computers, then there's a real possibility there. And this is a really big, serious matter. And the government needs to hire a lot of people. Private industry needs to hire a lot of people. And even individuals, families need to get some help too. Usually they look for their teenagers to give them consulting time in cybersecurity. In my case, I'm helping fund the Girl Scouts cybersecurity merit badges, so I may have to call on them at some point.
Yes, and the Vets in Tech actually became a partner this morning. Thank you, Craig, for connecting us. We just had already created our slide, but yes, they're involved too, as I know many of them will. And there are such amazing jobs. And one of the things in cyber jobs is you usually need a clearance. And most of our military service members have the clearance, which gets them, to the front of the line, which is really helpful. All right, so Bob, did you want to talk a little bit about the Leaders Eat Last program and dive into that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, that's I think I said for a second that our concentration as things change over time is that we are seeing that food is a major issue. I mean, I went up to the Bronx in New York about 6 months ago, and you can just see a line of veterans who served our country, going in to get some money, some food. And I do know, talking to them, there is this feeling of dignity and pride within the military, maybe a little bit more than most people's average life. Part of it is a kind of like this machismo thing for the military. There's a stigma, which I've experienced in my life, being in this world, that nobody wants to admit that they have some kind of wound, when they get wounded in the war. So there's a stigma that was extreme in the beginning of Iraq and Afghanistan when the wounded start coming back, and then it got a little bit better, but still, it's still there. And now the new challenge, and as Craig is doing so much for now on feeding, is that's not just a wound. That's something that was caused that none of us ever wanted. And so we need to concentrate on helping veterans to feed their family. The numbers are large. And like I said, there was a study, I think it's in Fort Hood, that a much lower percentage of veterans were coming forward to try to ask for some food. So I think we need more of a push. So we're trying to organize that and bring as many people in from the outside that we can to encourage them to take it, and also for more people to donate.
Well, and that makes so much sense too. And that's why the way we've set up our program to fight cybercrime is we want to work through the MilSpouse networks. We want to work through the networks. We're not going to come out as CSN and say, oh, you should listen to CSN. It should come from the trusted organizations they already work with. That's why it's so important that, the Got Your Back Network and the Gold Star Wives Arlington chapter, having those groups on board with us, they're going to share the message. They don't even need to know it comes from CSN. It needs to come from people that they trust. And then hopefully if we can get more people to report, we can find out specifically what the criminals are targeting and get the information out to them before people are a victim. Right now we're focused on helping them to report after the victimization, because it's hard sometimes to get to people before. But we've also found that after someone's been a victim, if they do get help, they're more likely to say, I don't think I'm going to be a victim again. And that re-victimization is that pattern gets stopped, which is so important, because once someone has been scammed, their name goes on the dark web, and they continue and continue and continue to give more money until they don't have any left. So we want to get in there and stop that.
Kristin, I think we've all experienced the same thing. The government's great to try to do everything they can on whether it's cybercrime or food, or for getting a new some kind of medical care for those that are badly wounded. But we learned early on that the government doesn't have enough to do as much as the rest of us in the country can help to do. So you need the civilian and military world, not just the government. And so, I mean, someone like you know a lot more about cybercrime, or at least have more connections for it probably than those within the military. Craig knows more about this topic than anybody else, is more deeply involved in it. That I think we know that when the wars began in Iraq and Afghanistan, we know that the VA and the DoD were overwhelmed. They weren't ready for it. And so that's what we wanted to fill was that little gap between what's needed and what's available through the government. So I think it's exactly the same thing with cybercrime. Yeah. I think we need to support you guys. We got to support every specialist organization out there that's doing something to help the veterans. I think it's crucial.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we know that the more people hear about it from someone they trust, the more they're going to hopefully not be a victim. So it's really important that we make sure that the messaging is empowering, not scary. And so that's why having Crosby on as our marketing partner, they've created a toolkit that is empowering and helps people to feel that there is something they can do and they don't have to suffer in silence. So it's really important. So Craig, I wanted to just sort of close up here and just come back to the fact that, you know, you've been supporting Cybercrime Support Network from the very beginning. You're one of our first supporters, and we want to thank you for seeing the value in what we do. So as we grow this partnership, where do you hope that we can go and reach more of the folks that need this service?
I'm hoping that we can get the word out to a lot more vets and their families and to everyone else, because everyone needs a hand dealing with cybercrime. It hits everywhere. Frankly, it's hit me. And the deal is that we need to look out for each other on the net and to figure out how to help out the people tracking it now and then, to help out the cops with it, and to do what we can.
Yeah.
We even have to help revive government programs, because under Obama, there was this Computer Financial Protection Bureau, which under Holly Petraeus was starting to go after scammers targeting families. That was shut down for several years, but apparently has been recently revived. And the deal is that we need government and we need civilians to go after the bad guys and to help specifically the cops do their thing.
Yeah, and we're so excited to play a role in that. The Biden-Harris administration now has a transition document that came from the Cyberspace Solarium Commission, who we've been working with, and they are recommending legislation to have a national call center. We've been advocating for this for 5 years now, and now there is draft legislation. We want to have one place for all Americans to call in the U.S. to get the help they need when they've been a victim of cybercrime. The current agencies just aren't set up to take that, and we want to support them and work with them. So hopefully we're going to be able to get to that point soon and bring on a lot more partners in all corners of our lives. So Bob, did you want to share a little bit at the end here about how you hope we can work together and keep moving this forward?
Yeah, I think we should have done this probably years ago, Kristin. I think this has been happening. This is something brand new. You know, this has been going on for, I don't know, maybe even go back to, well, I guess as soon as anything was cyber was created, I think the ripoffs, begun. And I think that we need to get as many people involved in doing something about cyber. I mean, listen, most people don't know what the hell it is,
Right.
I'm sure they're watching this. They're probably interested enough because they're experts on it, or they've already read about it, or they've got a family member like Ursula, or families that have been impacted by it. But I think that we just need to make sure that people wake up about it, whether it's helping those that have already been victimized or those that have not yet, but hopefully they won't be if they just learn something more about it from you guys.
That's right. And having this partnership and having your voices and your leadership is going to make all the difference. And then Ursula, did you want to close out by letting people know how can they partner with us? Because your inbox is probably full again already. As people are watching this, I'm sure you've gotten more partnerships. How can people find out more about this and join the partnership?
Well, it's very easy. All you have to do is go to fightcybercrime.org/military. And right around the middle of the page, you will find how to join the partnership. You fill out a very simple form, and within just a few days, I'll get back with you. Thank you again to all of our amazing partners, our sponsors, for the trust. Thank you for allowing me personally to serve. I'm not a veteran. I didn't have the opportunity to serve my country that way. But through this, I'm hoping that I can serve not only the military community, but my country as well. So please, get in touch with me, go to the website, send us that the form, and please join us so that we all can stand against cybercrime.
Ursula, you're so humble. You have served in an incredible capacity as a Gold Star wife and a military wife. Thank you. And I see that Catherine Cook from your organization has put the link to your next conversation about food insecurity in the chat there. So thank you everyone for your time, your effort, your funding, your support. Truly, we are going to make a difference. I have chills thinking about it. Let's go do this and let's serve our service members. Thank you for being here with us.